Welcome to Bold, a University of St. Thomas podcast where I get to interview Bold students and alumni. I'm your host, Isabel Garcia. Today I have my good friend Robert Flores, and his story shows that no matter how hard we plan and we're waiting for the future, that sometimes God has a different plan for us. Welcome to Bold, Robert.
Hello, Isabel. Thank you for inviting me. It's actually exciting to be part of this podcast. So, just as Isabel said, my name is Robert Flores. I'm a biology BS major. I'm currently a senior, and I'm going to tell my story of how I arrived here to Houston, specifically the United States, to have a broader view.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for being here, Robert. So, you're studying biology. So does that mean pre-med, doctor?
Yeah, pre-med. I'm in the pre-med track.
That's awesome. So let's get started at the beginning. So, you were born in Honduras, correct?
Yeah, born and raised in Honduras for almost my entire life.
But now you're here, and
now I'm here. So
now you're here. So you want to be a doctor, dude? That's big. Wanting to be a doctor, that's a big deal. Can you tell me a little bit about how that started? How you realized you wanted to be a doctor?
Sure. So everything started in Honduras, of course. I was in a bilingual school, hence why I can speak English. And it was this day, I was in 8th grade, I think. And some American doctors came to our classroom and asked for some young volunteering translators for their brigades. And I was excited because it was the best opportunity to actually practice English with some American doctors. And also, medicine at the time was kind of calling my attention, but not so much. So it was like a double experience. Like I could practice more my English and have more of this hand-to-hand experience with the doctors. It was really exciting to see hand-to-hand experience, like live how a surgeon makes all of these surgeries and procedures. And the best part of this was how grateful the people was. And just for translating, they were super grateful with me. Like I think they were more grateful with me than the doctor. You could tell by their eyes like how grateful they were, and it's something that has stuck with me ever since. And I have tried to pursue that medicine because why only be the translator if I can be the doctor as well? So
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so good that they were so nice to you. I kind of get that because I work at a swim school and I speak Spanish as well. I was born in Mexico, and some of the nannies actually bring the kids and they only speak Spanish.
yeah,
And so I speak Spanish and they're like, and so I'm like, oh yeah, your kid is gonna be in this lane, and yeah, and I speak to them in Spanish, and they're like, oh, thank you so much, and they're so nice, and
I know, right? Like it's too hard for them to communicate. Like you can tell it's really hard to speak another language. And the frustration most people feel not for not having someone or not doing by themselves, like not expressing themselves, it's really hard.
exactly, it just makes their life so much easier.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, yes, let's be a doctor. We're gonna do this, and obviously you have to go to med school on that. How does that work in Honduras, and how was your experience with that?
Whew. So here comes the fun part of my story. So I was actually in med school in Honduras, like right after high school. I started med school because you start med school right away, like a regular 4-year university.
It's not like here where or here in the United States where you go to school,
Hmm.
study biology like you, and then you go to med school after. It's like high school, med school.
Yeah, it's for 8 years. So basically, it's the same, but it's easier to get in because you don't have to do any MCAT or any volunteering or shadowing or research, none of that. Like,
So you go to med school in Honduras, and how was that?
Actually, those were the 2 best years of my life. I had a great experience. I met the best people you could ever met. However, uh, academically wise, I wasn't having the best experience at all. And I was so frustrated at the time because I was always this honor roll, straight A student. And shifting to university, I know it's a different story. However, I didn't know or I didn't feel I wasn't learning at all. So it was frustrating. It was frustrating. And I even attend to these psychiatrist therapy. And after many sessions, we realized that my problem wasn't myself at all. It was the language I was learning. So, in other words, I learned more in English than Spanish. Even though Spanish is my native language, I speak it every day. But for some reason, I learned more in English. And we tried to tie it up because I was in a bilingual school my whole life. And that's how I acquired most of my knowledge in English. So trying to learn some bunch of information in Spanish wasn't the best way for me.
It wasn't what you were used to, like, or how you were used
Yeah,
to being. That's
I
crazy.
know. My brain, it's crazy. Something's going on, but I try to work on it. And I kind of find a way, but it wasn't the best. Like English was my main way to learn.
I can imagine. Yeah, it's definitely not easy when you're just so used to learning a certain way and then suddenly all that changes. It's hard to adapt.
It is. And besides that, all the pressure you feel in medicine really, really stack up because you need to learn in order to be a good doctor. And I wasn't like even learning the basic stuff. So all of that frustration was piling and really was affecting me personally, academically.
Oh no. And so you're in med school, you're not doing so good. And then what happened? What
Well, things are getting worse now. So, my family was going through a really hard financial issue. We were basically on the edge of the bankruptcy, if you can say it that way. So, in med school, it's really expensive. If you compare like to income, it was basically 80% of the income just in tuition monthly. So you can see how hard it was. And after many months of struggling and making miracles here and there, I decided on my own to drop out of med school because I felt it was the best decision for the family. At least drop out for a while. Maybe we can get better jobs in the future or financially stable something.
that's
Yeah,
so difficult and that's must have been like
yeah,
a hard situation to deal with and I'm so sorry.
yeah,
That's
no, but after that, actually, I started working at a call center, especially for Comcast. And that kind of opened my mind and opened my eyes to reality and kind of motivated me to keep moving forward and not just sitting back and just giving up. And that's how we started talking with my parents as they trust in me a lot and we talk a lot. So we were discussing the possibilities of moving to the US. And after many, many discussions, planning, we finally decided that the best thing will be to move. So on that time, like when we actually made everything up, like, okay, we're moving this day, blah, 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 blah. I actually started to do my research on how med school works here, what were the steps, what were the requirements, and all of that. And I realized med school was not like in Honduras. It was way harder and harder like in the admission part. And also like both of them are hard to study. It's a lot of content and I know that both of them have a good quality. And I was thinking like, wow, these are a lot of steps to go through. It's a really tough decision to actually give everything up just for a lucky shot, basically, because it's not, you don't have warranty that you will get in. Like no one has a warranty. But I felt it was the opportunity to show myself. Maybe they'll recognize my effort. Maybe they'll see my motivations or something. Like I was so positive, like, okay, it will be hard, but we had to start working on it from day one. And I remember from day one, actually, we started working on it because in Honduras, I did my research on Google, like community colleges in Houston. And ACC was the first one to pop up, of course, by the name. You'll expect that. And I called them and asked them if my classes were transferable. And they told me, yeah, just bring them in. We're going to evaluate them. And most likely we'll accept them. And I was so happy because, okay, so I'll just make 2 years probably of university. And then I'm going to start doing med school. But the story was different. Um, the day I went to HCC, they told me they needed to go to, well, I needed to go somewhere to evaluate my classes just to see how many credits were worth, and that process took like a month. And when I received my evaluation back, I found that most of my classes were just one credit.
So you had gone to school for 2 years and they like it didn't count for like literally anything.
Nothing. Like not even the labs. that's that's really sad. But that kind of helped me to to motivate me again, to start working, to start having a better foundation. So yeah,
Awesome. So, do you think that like this was all in God's plan? Like just like
sure. Yeah, like ever since I put a step here in the airport, like after the immigration agent told me, welcome to the United States, I was 100% sure it was God's plan.
and so you went to HEC. Did you go for 2 years to HEC?
Not really. I went to HCC just for one semester. And then I realized that San Jacinto was closer to me and I transferred. And I did my last 3 semesters there.
How did you pick St. Thomas? How did you ended up here?
So, because I was in a Catholic university in Honduras, I was kind of related, or I felt like this call, like it's weird because all my time in San Jac, I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna move to UACL. But someday, someone taught me like about St. Thomas regarding the pre-med track and how good the education quality was. I was like, let me take a look. And I won't lie to you, but in one day, I planned everything to visit St. Thomas. Like that night, I was emailing admissions and they scheduled me for that Friday, which was like 2 days ahead. And ever since I was like in the admission center in front of C-Ship, I was amazed. Like this looked like Harry Potter for me. Like the buildings, the office buildings looks really cool. And plus looking at the C-Ship, the science building was so amazing. And it felt like home for some reason. Like it really felt like home. And I was glad. Like my mom loved it, my dad loved it, loved the campus, and especially because it was small, you have a better interaction with professors. So it was like the perfect school for me.
That's awesome. Oh, good. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. It's just like I got here and I toured. It's just like It's so cute. It's so like I don't know. It's such like a good school, and like when you know, you know.
Yeah. It's like a
And
calling you have.
yeah, it's like hard to like explain it to people because like my sister, she's a junior, and she's like it's kind of in the same process like I was, like just like oh like where do I go? Like I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
When you know, you know. Like it's hard to like explain like that feeling, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
and so you're about to graduate.
Yeah, I'm graduating next semester because I started in spring, not in fall like the traditional students do.
Well, you're not really a traditional student, are you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not.
And what's next?
What's next? Actually, right now I'm studying for the MCAT. So it's been really stressful lately.
When do you take it?
May 14.
Good luck.
I
And so then
know.
that decides if you can get into med school.
Kind of. Like MCAT is not necessarily the factor that will say if you get into med school or not. There's more behind the score. Like that's why they interview you. So, but you need a good score. Like regardless, you need a good score. But it's not like you need 100% of the score. It's always trying your best on it. And after that, I'm planning to stay here in Texas in med school.
That's awesome. So that's okay. I'm so glad that like after that whole difficult journey about like doing bad at med school at the beginning and then having to leave, that like now like the finish line is like almost there. It's so close
Almost, yeah.
that you're finally going to get to do it and actually go to med school. And then hopefully, how awesome is it going to be when you're a doctor? Like, I'm so excited. Like, after hearing the story, like, it's going to be so good.
I love the hype. I need more energy of that. Please keep going.
Like, I'm so, like, do you think it's going to be, like, so worth it? You're going to be like,
Like I always imagine that day. Like the day of reading the acceptance letter, I always imagine it. And I don't cry, but my eyes start getting watery and I get sensitive just imagine all the sacrifice, all the hard work finally pays it. Like just imagine that. It's really exciting. It's exciting. And that's not my main goal, but that's like the biggest step I can take ever since I moved. Because that's the hardest part to get in.
that's awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Robert. I absolutely love hearing your story. It's just so awesome. And like, it's so good to hear and refreshing how like God truly does have a plan for all of us.
Yeah.
Like, some of us think that like this is like what women should be, but like sometimes things end
Yeah.
up differently. So thank you so much for being here,
Yeah.
Robert.
Thank you for inviting me. It was really exciting telling this story. I hope this helped for motivation for those who having a hard time or struggling with decisions. Try to risk it. Like life is about risking, and if you don't take the next step, you'll never know what happened. So don't be scared of taking the next step. There's probably a good end for you. So keep going.
Thank you for that. All right, my friends, this has been a Bullet podcast. My name is Isabel. Stay bold.
Bye.
How was that? How was that, Darnell?